I've been a fan of The Sims since I was a little kid. I started off playing The Sims on the PS2 before moving on to the version for PC, and later, The Sims 2. While I missed The Sims 3 altogether, as I didn't have a computer good enough to play it on back then, I got into The Sims 4 within the past couple of years, and I rediscovered what I love about the franchise. There have been some incredibly innovative things about The Sims 4. I've enjoyed the ease of build and buy mode, the diverse number of options and casts compared to previous games, and the ease of installing mods. But I've also encountered profound disappointments in terms of gameplay. The lack of emotional reactions to big events such as cheating or affairs isn't there, the number of bugs rendering some packs such as Dine Out unusable, key features of previous versions of The Sims such as cars, interactable babies, and neighborhood building aren't there, and I dearly miss them. Sims News YouTubers such as Pixelate have pointed out that EA is possibly already recruiting for The Sims 5, and since it's likely that the game is in the earliest stages of development, I thought I would talk more about what I would like to see in The Sims 5 as a whole. My basic wish list is to just take the gameplay elements from previous packs and incorporate them into The Sims 5. I would love to see the memory, turn-ons, turn-offs, and wants fear systems from The Sims 2 to make a comeback. While I didn't play The Sims 3, I would love the idea of an open world and extremely customizable worlds to be added back in as well. And from The Sims 4, I would love to retain the build and buy systems, the easy mod installation, and the cast mode. But I think that even if this wishlist was met on a most bare minimum level, The Sims 5 may still have considerable problems, or worse, continue some of the trends from The Sims 4 that I dislike. So I wanted to go into more detail about other things that I wanted to see in The Sims 5, since The Sims 4 has left much to be desired. Packs that should be in base game in Sims 5. One thing that bothers me the most about the Sims franchise is the number of packs that have emerged. I didn't understand a lot of the criticism towards game packs at first. I thought that they were a cheaper way to input a lot of gameplay value into the game. For those of us who find the expansion packs expensive, game packs are a great way to let Simmers who don't have a ton of money input new content into their game. But when I started learning more about The Sims 3 and what made that gameplay so enjoyable, and the amount of detail that was included in those expansion packs, I started to see the issue. It feels like game packs are more of a way to nickel and dime Simmers. Breaking Vampires and Realm of Magic into two separate packs when in The Sims 3 you had one overarching paranormal expansion pack isn't very considerate to Sims players in the long run. While I understand destinations such as Jungle Adventure and Outdoor Retreat being their own packs, I would rather see these as expansion packs with more in-depth gameplay elements and, more importantly, not programmed as vacation worlds. Ultimately, I agree with a lot of players in that I think game packs aren't super useful and should be altogether eliminated. Another issue with the packs, there are a lot of packs that just exist that I don't think should exist. They should be incorporated into other packs, or better yet, included with base game. I don't understand why Spa Day is its own pack, given that a lot of those gameplay elements and items overlap with base game aspects such as gyms and fitness centers. I don't know why Parenthood and Dining Out aren't just incorporated into base game gameplay. I also thought I'd compile a list of packs I think should just be base game and explain my reasons why. So here are the packs that I think should be in the base game in The Sims 5. Seasons, Get Together, Get to Work, Parenthood, Spa Day, Dine Out, Tiny Living, Laundry Day, and possibly Cats and Dogs or small aspects of city living. So to start out with Seasons. Now, out of everything on this list, Seasons is what I feel must be in the Sims 5 base game. So many life sims and games in general just have seasons and weather already programmed into their base games already. There is no reason to keep this as a separate pack in the year of our Lord 2021, folks. If Animal Crossing can implement complex weather systems from the get-go, why not The Sims? In previous years, having seasons as a separate pack made sense, since installing all those items all at once would have been too overwhelming for your system, but now it no longer makes sense. This should just be something that is base game included. Get Together. I know that this pack is a favorite of many, but keep in mind, I'm someone that predominantly played The Sims 2. So when I got Get Together, all I could think of was The Sims 2 Double Deluxe Edition, which included the base game and the Nightlife expansion pack. To me, there is no reason why the elements in Get Together couldn't just be a part of base game or a deluxe edition of the base game. It just doesn't seem that dynamic of a pack to me. Clubs just don't seem like an entire reason to pay $40 extra for. Get to Work. Get to Work is probably one of the most disappointing packs in The Sims 4, but I think it has good elements. I like the idea of being able to follow my Sims to work, however, I don't think that this should be a separate pack any longer. I think that this should just be incorporated into the base game. The Sims 4 is a life simulator, and to me, it doesn't make sense to have follow your Sims to their careers as an entirely separate gameplay element, one that's worthy of spending $40 on. Absolutely not. However, I should note that I wouldn't want Get to Work added to the base game unless it had some significant improvements. As someone who played The Sims 2, I was extremely disappointed when I realized that it couldn't run a home business, and the few times I attempted to run a retail store, it was incredibly boring compared to the ones that I ran in The Sims 2. So I really think that Get to Work would need to be incorporated into the base game, and additionally, it would need an overhaul. The retail system needs a complete overhaul. We need to be able to have at-home businesses. And we need to be able to have businesses that are dynamic in terms of gameplay and have a lot of interaction with them. Parenthood. I'm in agreement with a lot of Simmers that Parenthood should have just been a Sims 3 Generations pack, but it's not, and according to the developers, it was not meant to be. A lot of Simmers are family-oriented, so I'm super confused as to why Parenthood wouldn't just be a part of the base game gameplay. I mean, parenting? Come on. That's something that's family-oriented. Parenting just doesn't seem like that it's that dynamic of an option or of an action to do in The Sims 4. I just don't think that this is something that should be a separate pack. I think it's something that's essential to base game gameplay. Spa Day. Again, if gyms are in the base game, why is Spa Day its own separate pack? Honestly, aside from Journey to Batu, this is one of those packs that just comes across as a lackluster, desperate cash grab. Why is yoga not a base game activity? Saunas are things that are found at gyms, so why isn't that there? Spa Day is dumb. No, this should just be a part of the base game. Dine Out. Again, circling back to my experiences as someone who played The Sims 2. Get Together and Dine Out being two separate packs is profoundly dumb to me. It doesn't make sense. It's another shameless cash grab. I think that Dine Out could be a part of the base game or could be a part of a deluxe edition of the base game, same as the elements from Get Together. Tiny Living. Tiny Living is a really great stuff pack, one that I enjoy. I didn't actually mind paying money for this one as it introduced some cute items and some fun building and gameplay challenges. But now that we've established what Tiny Living is, does it truly make sense to pay money for a pack which basically just introduces new lot traits and benefits? I mean, you can build tiny homes without the Tiny Living pack. It's not that hard. I just think that the benefits of the tiny lots themselves should be something included in base game. I don't think that I would want to see Tiny Living again for The Sims 5 as a stuff pack especially. Laundry Day. Similar to Tiny Living, Laundry Day makes sense on its own in The Sims 4 in that it introduced a new aspect of gameplay that hadn't been played before in previous iterations of The Sims. But now that we've had it, and now that I've played it, I would much rather see it as a part of the base game. Now, on to my other possibilities. Cats and dogs. This is the item on my list that I think is really pushing it, but you know, a lot of games allow you to have pets already, ones that aren't even life simulators. I would understand if cats and dogs were made in an expansion pack, but I think that this could be a really great way to entice new players from the get-go to get The Sims, since you could just have cats and dogs right off the bat, and small pets too. Small aspects of city living. Now, I think apartments should be base game. And I think that we should be able to design our own apartments, apartment complexes, and townhouses. We don't necessarily need all the aspects of city living in the base game, we don't even need that world. I personally be willing to pay for a separate expansion pack that just had a city living world. But I think the ability to build apartments should be a base game element. A lot of the Sims 4 worlds are suburbia based, and guess what? Townhomes and apartment complexes exist in suburbia. Please just let us create these things from the get-go. Now I know what you're thinking. Chloe, this is EA. EA would never put this much content into their base game. Sure, they wouldn't, but they could and they should. EA is going to come up against several competitors in the next 10 years, and they should be better prepared to meet the needs of its community. Whether you think Paralives will deliver on its promises or not, Paralives and the failures of The Sims 4 is at least going to motivate more devs to create their own life sims. Personally, I would be willing to pay $60 for a base game with more content than $40 for a base game with the same amount of content as The Sims 4. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Otherwise, I'm more inclined to leave The Sims as a whole in the past. But adding these packs into the base game isn't the only thing that I think would be necessary for The Sims 5 to be an even better game than its predecessor. There are certain quality of life necessities that they're going to need to have from the get-go. Some of these things are going to be objects, and then some of these are just going to be other simple gameplay aspects. So here we go. Cars. Some people may not miss cars, but I really do. I think they're an essential part of a life simulator, and it's weird that The Sims 4 is the first iteration of the game since The Sims 1 to not have playable cars. There was absolutely no reason to not have cars. I have no idea why we didn't have cars. Pools. This absolutely needs to be a base game item. You have to be freaking kidding me. Y'all need to get
together. I can't believe that this wasn't a base game item. What's wrong with you? This is something that's essential. It's something that's been easy to put into the game.
No loading screens. It's 2021. The Sims team should work to eliminate loading screens as much as possible. While I understand that it was difficult at times to run The Sims 3 and it may be bad to eliminate loading screens altogether, I would so much rather have loading screens between worlds rather than encounter a loading screen every time I try to go next door. That's just simply ridiculous. Bunk beds. We literally cried about not having bunk beds in the base game for 6 years, and we're just now getting them this March. Yay! Bunk beds serve a functional purpose. They help Simmers with building challenges, cramming as many people into one tiny tight space as they can. They also help with designing military areas, orphanages, and other types of homes and environments. They're also helpful to the storytelling or family-oriented Simmers who don't have a lot of money and want to make sure that their kids have beds or can share rooms. Ladders and spiral staircases. I love the build mode in The Sims 4, but we need more staircases that aren't just square and boxy. I would love to see a return of spiral staircases, as they help with designing particular types of builds. Since we made ladders base game in The Sims 4, there's no reason for them to not be base game in The Sims 5. Better babies and more cribs. This is something that so many have been begging for, and I think it's truly essential. When I played The Sims 2, yeah, babies didn't serve much of a purpose, but you could do different things with them. You could change them, bathe them, and interact with them. If you happen to have money for the Sims 2 store, you could also purchase little swings that you could put your babies in so that they could have fun. And in The Sims 3, you could take them out and about in the stroller. They felt like an essential part of family. And I would love to see babies incorporated into gameplay more in The Sims 5, and I personally think it's a necessity. I also think that it's important for The Sims 5 to have more cribs in the base game, rather than just the simple bassinets that we get in some stuff packs. I would love to see the cribs also be compatible with toddlers. One of my favorite parts of The Sims 2 was having a toddler that knew how to walk, them climbing out of the crib in the middle of the night, and having their parent wake up to run after them and put them back in it. I think it's just a sweet little detail that is really great for family-oriented Simmers, and especially great for the storytelling Simmers that are maybe telling the story about a family that doesn't have a lot of money, so they can't afford a full-size bed for their toddler just yet. Speaking of toddlers, Toddlers were not included in the base game at the start, and that was super dumb. Never do that again, EA. Never do that again. Ever. Build your own neighborhood. Out of all the strange things about The Sims 4, this has got to be one of the weirdest. In literally every version of The Sims, you can build and customize your own neighborhoods. Newcrest is not good enough to customize on its own. I want to decide where lots go. I want to make different sizes of lots. Maybe I don't want my town to be situated right next to a river. Maybe I want to make a mountain village. I also think that The Sims needs to expand upon the different types of biomes and environments represented in the game. We have a lot of multicultural and geographical stuff in packs. City living is inspired by Hong Kong, island living by Polynesian cultures, and snowy escape by Japanese culture. Some may argue that Get Together is supposed to be English or European, but I would argue that it's more American East Coast. I would like to see other types of cultures and biomes represented in The Sims 5. It would be cool to have an African city or a sub-Saharan world. I would also love to see more Middle Eastern cultures represented. Even Indian, or perhaps indigenous cultures, would be just so cool to see and so important for inclusivity. Kids should be allowed to do chores, garden, do other things. One of the things that frustrated me the most about The Sims 4 is the limited number of ways that kids can help out around the house. I was also frustrated that they have violins for children, but they don't have any guitars for children. And I got so fed up with this that I ended up downloading and installing a CC mod that would allow my kids to garden, play guitars, and cook. While some people might think that it's unrealistic that kids can cook, I don't think that that's the case. The kids in The Sims are like 9 to 12, maybe. It's not like they're real-life 6-year-old comparisons. Why can't my kid just make themselves some mac and cheese and stop freaking bothering me when I'm trying to build a rocket ship so I can boink some random space alien? That particular mod allowed me to have some of the most fun I've had playing The Sims. There was one time that I created a Sim who grew up in an impoverished family, and in order to provide for herself and her siblings, she, at a child age, would go downtown and play guitar as a means of earning money. This made things really interesting for me story-wise. Allowing kids to participate in different types of activities will expand on gameplay elements and even open up new ideas for aspirations. It would be really interesting to have a cooking aspiration for kids, and it would be interesting to have more of a creative aspiration for kids that wasn't just, I want to be an overall creative, but a musician as well. A return to lore. Sims 4 has introduced its own neighbors and Sims, which I think are iconic in their own right. However, I would like to see them embrace the lore and future iterations of the game. Swatch and color slider systems. There is nothing worse than building a house and all your wood furniture has slightly different shades so it doesn't match. Or when you want to design a bedroom but the bed sheets don't match the wallpaper that you want to use or the other furniture in the space. CC creators have figured out workarounds and there's no reason for The Sims to not have that, so they need that in the next game. It's also extremely frustrating when you're designing a Sim and a lipstick is just a shade darker or lighter than you need it to be. Better swatch systems and better color slider systems are going to allow us to have that customizable content that we really desire when it comes to building homes and designing our Sims. Other new ideas and content I'd like to see. Within the past year, I think that the Sims team has made some strides in appealing to their community. Unfortunately, that's largely been in response to backlash, but I digress. We've gotten a lot of free updates which include new items, and we've celebrated certain events such as Hispanic Heritage Month and the 21st anniversary of the Sims franchise. I think EA should keep that energy going, but not just in adding CC, but rather in adding small gameplay elements. One of the things that I like about Animal Crossing, another life sim arguably, is that even though the game is expensive, as the seasons go by, Nintendo introduces new challenges and gameplay aspects that motivate players to keep checking in and playing their game. Wouldn't it be cool if during certain months or holidays they unveiled more free gameplay aspects? For Earth Day, why not incorporate some of the gameplay elements from Eco Lifestyle and Island Living? Or they could just do random fun events with no connection to holidays at all. What if during the spring season they introduced the gameplay idea of school dances or proms? I think sprinkling in tiny aspects of gameplay and content throughout the year can help keep the community as a whole happy. Another thing is a farming pack. This is something that we've been asking for in The Sims 4 but have yet to see. Gardening is a super dynamic aspect of gameplay in The Sims 4 and I really enjoy it, but I would love to see us expand upon that. The frustrating thing with The Sims 4 is that it also feels like it's mostly suburban neighborhoods or cities, and we don't have a lot of rural neighborhoods. The few that I would consider rural neighborhoods are vacation worlds. I would love to see a farming pack simply because it could introduce new types of environments and a different pace of life. But will EA listen? Now that this has all been said and done, do I actually expect EA to take me seriously? No! No, my friends. One person can't enact change against a multi-million-dollar corporation. I don't even think EA will take their fanbase seriously unless there was a mass boycott from buying The Sims 5. And even then, I think that EA would just restructure their business and who they market to in order to attract new players and retain the die-hard fans. No, my friends, I don't think that EA is going to listen to their community or their devs team's needs anytime soon. But you know who they might listen to? The government. In the past few years, EA was slapped with fines for having loot boxes in some of their games, such as FIFA 2020 and Star Wars Battlefront 2. With more governments cracking down on microtransactions, I anticipate in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see more regulations given towards microtransactions, loot boxes, and paid downloadable content, such as Sims packs. Probably not so much in the US, but definitely in other parts of the world. I anticipate that the development companies may have to present information that tangibly discerns why they can justify charging so much for a particular product and what that product contains, which may stifle their creativity in the long run, yes, but ultimately would protect vulnerable consumers from being taken advantage of. And you know what? If you won't stop doing these things when actual governments are telling you to stop, you kinda deserve it, EA. You kinda deserve it. Putting several microtransactions in a game as a means of enticing players to improve aspects of gameplay may have a devastating impact on the psychology of players. Microtransactions can lead to impulse buying and feed into gambling addiction mentalities. These studies are a little bit rudimentary and obviously need larger sample sizes to be considered, but it's something that's been an increasing concern, and I think that that's only going to be given more attention again in the next 5 to 10 years. Some studies also point to the entrapment effect, how people may feel obligated to continue investing in the game because they have already invested too much money to give up their pursuit. I think that we all forget that while The Sims is a series that can be enjoyed by people of all ages, it is technically rated T for teen. Teen, which according to the ESRB means anyone 13 and up. That means minors. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that vulnerable minors being exposed to microtransactions or paid downloadable content that's largely predatory and not beneficial may be harmful to them and their families in the long run. Since The Sims is technically a game marketed to minors, I think that governments would be even more motivated to step in so that they can protect children. Again, not in the US, but probably in other parts of the world. This is why I found it strange when the kits were being rolled out. EA is truly playing with fire, and I don't think that it's going to take too long for them to get burned. So, in conclusion, don't take this video super seriously. I just wanted to express what I enjoyed about The Sims, what I enjoyed about it now, and what I really want them to improve upon in the future. I'd love to know what sort of things would be essential for you to have in The Sims 5. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, it really does help the channel out. Also consider subscribing, and when you subscribe, be sure to hit the notifications bell so you get updates when I upload future videos. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to give a very special shout out and thanks to my patrons, AceWolf741, Deep Dive Dylan, Brian White, Deevil J, Caleb Putnam, Robin Harper, Bob Conway, and Cody Webb.